Hello everyone. Welcome to the Toy Corner. Today I've decided to share the financially irresponsible decision I have made to become a toy collector. Before we get started, I just want to let you know this is not a review. I am not reviewing these toys, I am simply adding them to my collection. Yes, I will give you my opinion on each and every one as I open them up and as we add them to the toy shelf. But I am not going to be critically looking them over, I am not going to be looking for flaws or anything else like that. I am not going to be making my recommendation to you whether I think you should buy it or not. Probably I am an opinionated fellow. So first we're going to start with He-Man from Revelation, part of Masterverse. Not much to say about the box. It's got some beautiful artwork on it, but I am not a person who cares about boxes. So we're going to get rid of that, but before I do, I just want to tell you a little bit about why I decided to pick up this figure. You see, I am a child of mostly the 90s. I did not grow up with He-Man from the 80s. I think when they pulled the toys from the shelves, I was perhaps a year old, maybe not quite. So I didn't have He-Man in my life. When the 2002 series came out, I was well into my teens and not really interested in checking out He-Man, since all I knew about him was from internet jokes. I don't think they were yet called memes at the time. Correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know, I'm an old fogey. But when I saw that Kevin Smith was doing an animated series on YouTube, that did catch my interest, and I thought, okay, let's check this out. I like cartoons. I'm an old fogey still, but I like cartoons. Let's check this out. And then I saw the Masterverse line in stores, and I decided, let's give this a try. I've been interested in collecting toys for a long time. Let's go ahead and give He-Man a try. So let's do just that and get him out of his box. And there he is, He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe. I know this to be true because it says so on the back of the box. And the box wouldn't lie to us, would it? The Masterverse line is a 7-inch line of figures, and I feel like the detail in this guy is very good. The paint is actually minimal, but it's used in such a way that it doesn't feel like it's minimal. A lot of this is just straight plastic. Soft, bendy plastic, like up here and over here. He has all of the articulation that you would want from a figure, or that I want in a figure. We're not going to go over all of the different joints. As I stated, this is not a review. This is not even scripted. I bet you couldn't tell. Accessory-wise, he has this lovely power sword, and of course he comes with a shield as well. My shield in the package was coming undone. It doesn't seem to stop it from working in his hand. He can hold it just fine, stays in place. And I'm sure just a little bit of glue would fix that right up. He has some interchangeable hands, a fist, and an open hand, as well as two grippy hands to hold onto his sword or whatever else you might want him to grip onto. You can also remove the armor on his arm and on his chest for some interchangeability amongst the characters. You'll notice all the men have this shape of a body, so you can mix and match parts. It's all just part of the fun. On mine, the right wristband also came off, although I don't think it's supposed to do that. There is a little hole on the side here. I'm not sure how well you can see that, but yes, it's not supposed to. But, well, I guess it gives me just one more option. So then how does his He-Man hold up to all of the He-Men who came before him? Well, I don't care. I like him, and I'm happy to add him to the shelf. Next on the list is Transformers Premium Finish Generations 01. And that black box is, it's not bad, but it's just black and white. Let's get rid of that part. There, that's a much prettier box. You got some grid lines, all red and black and gold. Very nice Optimus Prime from War for Cybertron. As you can see, right up there. War for Cybertron Trilogy. It's got some great artwork of the toy. You can see it from many different angles. It is a nice box. but I don't like boxes, so let's get rid of this one as well. There, much better. Out of the box. How I like all of my toys. So, Transformers. Did I grow up with them? Yes and no. Again, I was mostly a child of the 90s, so Transformers didn't have much bleed. The G1 Transformers did not have much bleed into the 90s. I do remember seeing reruns on television from time to time, but, well, I was 3 or 4. All that I really remember about it is that it was in the way of my watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So no, I didn't really care for the Transformers growing up. I didn't really have the toys when I was very young. I believe one of my siblings may have, but I did not have any attachment. I've been dabbling a little bit back in Transformers here and there. I actually had a nice little collection going about, say 2 or 3 years ago. Most of it was War for Cybertron. There was something about the blocky bodies that were similar to G1, but so much more detailed and war-torn that just really seemed to resonate with me. However, it's a long story, but I don't have that collection anymore. It doesn't matter. This is my first toy collection. Forget everything. Forget it. You didn't hear that. You can't prove it, and if you try, I will deny. So, Optimus here, being premium finish, is different from the retail version. The retail version does not have these cracks. This green is blue, and it doesn't have any of this black scoring damage, anything like that. So, you get some nice extra details, a really nice paint job, and well, it looks like a very nice Transformer. It has really good articulation. Again, I'm not really going to go into everything. This is not a review in that way. This is simply why I've added something to my collection. And do I like said thing? Yes or no? Did I make a mistake? Yes or no? That sort of thing. But I will say that when it comes to posability, I cannot complain about this figure in the slightest, so I do have to highlight it is done really, really well. As for accessories, he has the lovely blaster and a shield to go with it. Although, being a premium, I do wish that the blaster had more paint on it, more detail, more holes filled in, something like that. It does seem like a misstep, but it doesn't ruin the figure for me in any way imaginable. His shield also transforms into a nice axe, so he has a couple of options for melee, for shooting, all that wonderful sort of play. And while I don't think this is something that was meant as a feature, I do like to flip this panel up for a makeshift shield. I just think it's something that Optimus would do. And these Cybertruck parts also kind of look like little rotating gun barrels, so I like to flip those out and pretend he has extra weapons as well. Maybe you find that ridiculous, maybe you don't, but it's just an extra little feature that I found and that I will use. Of course, the entire point of a Transformer is to transform, so let's get that taken care of. And there we are with him in his Cybertron truck mode. It's a truck. I don't know what else to say about it, but it looks very Optimus Prime, and that works for me. The instructions do say that you can turn the wheels down like this to make a hover mode, but it doesn't really feel like an extra mode, and it just kind of looks a little ridiculous. And when it comes to transformations, the only question that I ever ask for Transformers is, was it fun, and is it easy to remember? If the answers to both of those are yes, then it gets the highest marks that I have for it. And as for Transformers that don't transform, I'm not interested in those. Why would you ever buy something called a Transformer that doesn't transform? Kinda defeats the whole purpose. And I do like to fiddle with things, so transforming him back and forth is just going to be something that I do regularly. But for now, we'll go ahead and add him to the toy shelf. The next one is Spider-Man. This one is from the 90s cartoon show, Spider-Man the Animated Series, which I believe was just called Spider-Man, but I could be wrong about that. Don't fact check me. This is the Spider-Man that I was first introduced to. This is the one that I grew up with. This is the one that I have nostalgia for. The card is designed just like the cards were back in the 90s. Minus the cross-sell, which is kind of a shame, but understandable. They probably didn't know what all they were going to put out in this line at the time. I'm not quite sure how to open it with doing the least damage, so I think I'm just gonna have to rip it. And here he is set free from his packaging. I love the coloring. It does remind me of the television show. You can see that he has some painted-in shading. I like that the shading it's low profile enough to be both noticeable and to not really stand out too much. So it doesn't look like he should absolutely only be standing from this position. He looks good from all angles, is my point. Posability is everything that you would expect on a normal 6-inch figure from the Marvel Legends line, or so I assume. I haven't really owned many, but they look like they have some good articulation, so I'm just going to pretend to know what I'm talking about, and you'll just have to deal with that. Accessories include this splotch of webbing, and some extra hands. He has these lovely webbing hands, some fighting fists, and some open hands, perhaps for playing catch, perhaps for firing an unreasonably large beam of energy. The 90s Spider-Man cartoon was a big part of my childhood, and so were the action figures that came along with it, so of course I would be happy to add a new version of this Spider-Man to my collection. Onto the shelf he goes. And the penultimate figure for today is Luke Skywalker from the Black Series, Star Wars, Hasbro's 6-inch Star Wars line. This is as he appeared in The Mandalorian on the Imperial Light Cruiser. The box certainly is a box. It's got some pictures. It's got some nice artwork on the side, I'll give it that. But you know how I feel about boxes by now, at least I hope you do if you've been paying attention. I don't like them, so let's get rid of it. Here we have the paper bags that are replacing a lot of plastic in Hasbro products these days. This Luke comes with a lovely cloth goods cloak, giving him the Return of the Jedi look he had when he entered Jabba's palace, covering his face, making him very mysterious. The lightsaber hilt hanging from his belt, unfortunately, isn't on there very well. It'll fall off fairly easy. He will also fall very easy. I need to invest in some action figure stands. Underneath the cloak, we see Luke's black Jedi robes. I've always really liked this look. I'm not sure if it's exactly the same as what he wore in Return of the Jedi. I think his vest was a slightly different color. I'm not enough of an expert to say that with any certainty at all, but either way, I love the way this figure looks. I do question why his hand is in the Force choke position. I know that he uses that in the beginning of the Return of the Jedi, although I have heard some theories that he was doing a mind trick and not actually choking, because that's a dark side move, but I'm not entirely sure, and I don't really care. It was a cool scene. It does, however, give good positioning to put it over the lightsaber switch so it looks like he's igniting his blade. Yes, the blade and the hilt do come apart. It's not two separate pieces, and I do think that that's the way that it should be done in the 6-inch scale. I'm fine within the 3 3/4 inch if they have a hilt and an ignited saber all as one piece for stability, but in the 6-inch line you can just have the blade pop out of the hilt, and I think that's how it should be done. This particular Luke Skywalker has a lot of meaning to me, as I first learned of Star Wars at a pretty young age, and I learned of it through the Power of the Force 1995 line, where this Jedi Knight Luke, as he appeared in that line, was my very favorite Luke Skywalker. I loved that toy, and I was devastated when I inevitably lost the lightsaber. I had so many blues, but only that one green, and I never did find it again. The only accessories he comes with are the lightsaber and the cloak, but honestly I just don't think you need that many. I don't need interchangeable hands on my action figures. I'm happy if they just have the gripping hands. Action hands for action poses are neat, but in my book just not a requirement. If you add a whole bunch of hands just to increase the price, I'm going to notice that, and I'm probably either not going to buy your toy, or I'm going to complain about it. But Luke Skywalker, having such a nostalgic place in my heart in his Jedi Knight form, is a wonderful addition to my toy shelf. Let's go ahead and get him over there. And last up for today, we have the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ultimate Leonardo from Super 7. This one, I have a lot of things to say, but let's get rid of the box. And, oh look, another box. Well, to be fair, the last box was a mailer, so I can't really say that it was the box. Alright, there's the slip cover off, and we can finally see the turtle in the box. So let's talk a little bit about this box. The only really interesting thing it has is it does have a nice window in the front that displays the figure and all of the accessories. And it has a nice little blurb on the back, but other than that, it's just green sewer wall. It's not that interesting to me. Some character artwork would have been nice, maybe a cross-sell for the other characters from the line, the wave, whatever you want to call it. But let's go ahead and open again. And there we finally are with Leonardo out of the box. The Super 7 Ultimates is an attempt by Super 7 to take the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles line of the 1988, I believe, and sort of upscale and modernize them with articulation and detailed paint jobs. And these turtles can do much more than the old turtles ever could have, but I think that they're lacking in a few key places. But we'll talk about that later. For now, I want to revel in how amazing this figure actually really looks, because the detail is great. There's a lot of scoring on the shell, both front and back. The belt has some nice added details. The 1988 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles line was the line that I grew up with as a child. I loved the cartoon show from the 80s. I loved the toy line from the 80s and the 90s. This was my thing as a child, at least until another certain property came out and somewhat overrode it, but we'll worry about that later. For now, Leonardo was important to add to my collection because it represents probably one of the larger portions of my childhood. He was my favorite Ninja Turtle when I was younger, mostly because he wields two swords. Don't really need any other reason. Two swords, good enough for me. These days, I don't have a favorite Ninja Turtle. That is a foreign concept to me. I like them all for different reasons. What really makes this series kind of difficult for me to put into words how exactly I feel on this toy series is it seems to be one of those one step forward, one step back kind of things. If you're just looking at this part of the figure, it looks great, although there certainly are a couple of, so there's already some paint run on over there, and it's hard to see his arm. I'm not sure if it's focusing in camera, but there are little divots in the paint there. There's just a lot of little quality things that I think could have been taken care of. Now, were this a $30 figure, I would have no complaints, but it is not. It is not. It is a $55 figure, and I think that price is a little bit too high. Now, he comes with a lot of accessories, which we'll get into in just a moment. But for now, I think I will just say, in my opinion, they should have cut back a few things to make these figures $30 to $50 figures instead of $50 to $80 figures. But let's take a look at some of those accessories. So of course we have his twin katanas, some sort of hooked and curvy straight sword thing, and a metal pizza, a tri-point spiky fist weapon, and an actual slice of pizza, 2 throwing stars, turtle calm in both open and closed variety, a head that doesn't fit in with the 1980s head sculpt in the slightest, also gripping hands. This one has a chipped nail, some fists, and some open hands, great for shrugging, and an entire weapon stand of unpainted weapon still on the sprue that you can cut off and I guess paint if you want to, or leave unpainted to look more like the 1980s Turtles accessories because they were also unpainted. I like this figure a lot, and I really wanted to just absolutely love it, but the price point does make it a little hard to recommend anyone else add to their toy shelf. I'm happy to add it to my toy shelf, but there are a few things that I could have done without. We could have completely lost this head, and we would have lost nothing, because if you're buying this figure line, why would you want the figure not to look like the 1980s line that is clearly trying to represent? Now, I don't think that an extra head is a bad idea, I just think you could have given this one a different expression. Maybe one of the expressions from the other Ninja Turtles from the classic line, so you could have Leo make one of their faces, or an entirely new expression, maybe open mouth shouting, or just smiling because he's already got the angry grimace, just something that goes in line with the figure. As it is, this is useless to me. This is going to go in a bag, in a drawer, never to see the light of day. I could have done without the unpainted weapon sprue. It's nice that they want to throw back to the old figure, but I think by having the painted, updated weapons, it truly goes with their updated vision for the figure. I don't think that this was necessary. I think, sure, maybe they could have released these as like an extra set, all 4 Turtles weapons in unpainted version, so if you wanted that, you could have spent the extra money to buy it as an extra, but I just don't think that it should be in here increasing the cost. Otherwise, I'm not sure why they had to have so many hands. I personally would have been happy just with the gripping hands, but you could have left out the second set of gripping hands. These gripping hands hold everything. They're the ones that I put all the stuff in. The other gripping hands are slightly more closed, and I think that's maybe for holding on to the throwing stars, but as you saw, the throwing stars fit just fine in these hands, so I'm not really sure we needed this extra pair of hands. The fists and the open ones are fine for display options, but I also could have done without those too, and I think if you'd taken all of that out, plus some of the extra packaging, you could have easily made this a $30 figure, but that's enough being negative. As it stands, I absolutely love the updated look, and while there are many pieces that I will never use, this Leonardo absolutely gets a place of honor on my toy shelf. And there we have it, the first 5 figures to be added to my toy collection, each one representing a different part of my life, a different part of myself, a different part of my journey as a toy collector. Thank you for joining me in this first step, and I hope I will see you when we take the next. Take care of yourself, take care of each other, simply take care.